The mystery of the ship that reappeared after 50 years inside the Bermuda Triangle. Imagine a ship that vanished without a trace for over 50 years, only to suddenly reappear in the heart of the Bermuda Triangle, a place where ships and planes disappear without explanation. Satellite images captured this once-lost ship drifting around the Bermuda Triangle, and this baffling sight raised even more questions. How did it survive there all these years? Was it just floating aimlessly, or was there something far stranger at play? The real shock came when they discovered that the crew on board was still alive. The story begins about 10 months ago, when a satellite picked up an unusual object in the Bermuda Triangle. This was a very odd finding, as this region is notorious for powerful electromagnetic waves that are known to pull anything in the area into an unknown fate, whether it's ships, planes, or even satellites. No one dares to get too close, but this time, something incredible was detected. An enormous ship was found circling around the Bermuda Triangle itself. But the question was, how could this ship survive in such a place? The magnetic waves are so strong, they should have pulled it into the depths of the triangle. Yet here it was, drifting around like nothing had ever happened. The mystery deepened when they noticed that the ship was slowly moving away from the triangle, and after weeks of observation, it finally reached a safe zone. Only then, when the ship was clear from the dangerous magnetic field, did they send a team to investigate. What they found was nothing short of extraordinary. The ship was remarkably well preserved, considering it had been lost for over 50 years. The ship's structure looked ancient, and everything about it screamed history. Its design, its markings, everything indicated it was a ship from another era. But there was something very strange. Only a small part of the ship showed signs of deterioration from saltwater corrosion. Considering the ship's age and the harsh conditions it should have endured, it was almost impossible for it to still be in such good condition. Something was off. As the explorers boarded the ship and investigated further, they found bodies on deck, skeletons of the people who had once been part of the crew. It was strange because these bodies should have been washed away by the sea or deteriorated after all this time. How were they still lying there on the surface of the ship, perfectly intact? They continued to explore, going deeper into the ship. On the first deck, they found more skeletons, the remains of the people who had been aboard this ill-fated ship. But what truly shocked the team was when they reached the second deck. There, they found even more bodies, but among them were some strange, almost otherworldly metals materials that no one had ever seen before, not even in modern technology. These metals, some with a golden hue, were unlike anything found on Earth, but that wasn't the most shocking discovery. On the final deck of the ship, they discovered strange boxes, large containers that resembled coffins. When they opened them, they found bodies inside. However, these were not like the others. These bodies were still in pristine condition, not decomposed at all. In fact, when they checked the vital signs of the bodies, they were still alive. Despite the ship being lost for over 50 years, the people inside these coffins were still alive, their heartbeats still pulsing. As the team began to investigate further, they realized that these people were members of the ship's original crew, the same crew that had disappeared inside the Bermuda Triangle over 50 years ago. How were they still alive? Why hadn't they aged? The mystery deepened as they discovered that these people had been in a deep sleep, or a sort of suspended animation. The next challenge was figuring out how long they had been in this state, and how they could bring them back to life. After conducting tests, the team discovered that the people inside the coffins had been preserved through some sort of advanced technology, a technology that allowed them to survive for decades without aging. It became clear that this was no ordinary ship or crew. They had somehow found a way to preserve their lives in a state of stasis, untouched by the passing of time. What they found next was even more unsettling. The team discovered a strange hexagonal object, a piece of technology that was completely unlike anything on Earth. When they touched it, the object projected a holographic image, a live video of a person who seemed to be speaking directly to them. This figure on the screen looked human, but his clothes were unusual, almost futuristic. He introduced himself and explained that the Bermuda Triangle was a portal between dimensions. The Bermuda Triangle, he said, was a gateway that connected different dimensions, including our own. According to this mysterious figure, ships and planes that disappeared in the triangle were transported to other dimensions, sometimes for years or even decades before returning to our world. This figure revealed that the 15 survivors were part of a crew that had entered the Bermuda Triangle and been transported to another dimension. They survived the journey because their bodies were preserved in a special suspended animation, and when the ship emerged from the triangle, they were still alive. These people had been trapped in a different dimension, and when they finally returned, they had aged only a few days, even though decades had passed in our world. The figure went on to explain that there were other dimensions, some peaceful and others much darker. These darker dimensions were home to beings who had sinister intentions. They sought to conquer other worlds, including our own. The figure warned that if they encountered ships or planes from the Bermuda Triangle that had pentagonal symbols instead of hexagonal ones, they were dealing with hostile forces from an occupying dimension. The crew had to be ready for an invasion from these hostile beings from other worlds. As the message ended, the explorers were left in shock. They had just uncovered the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, a portal to other dimensions and a glimpse into the unknown. But the questions remained. Would the technology that could transport them between dimensions be used to travel forward into time? Would the pentagonal warning prove true? Only time would tell.